Hi friends, it's Mr. Alex from Adams Memorial Library, and I'm here for the first video of our Art Attack series for the Palmer Summer Reading Program. Now, if you have one of our Art Attack kits, then you're going to want to go ahead and grab that and get out the kit for our Constellation Coaster project, as well as the story packet that goes along with it. If you don't have one of our kits, that's okay too. You can follow along with supplies that you might have at home. And one important thing to remember is that some of the materials that I'm about to show you, we will be using for different projects. So for instance, anything like scissors, brushes, or paint daubers, you're definitely going to want to keep those for future projects. So with all that in mind, let me show you what we'll need to get started. Alrighty, so when we're making our Constellation Coaster, we're going to need just a couple of things out of our Art Attack bags. The first thing we're obviously going to need is a coaster. Then we're going to want to paint our coaster, so we'll need just a few different types of paint. We have black for our base, neon blue and pink for our galaxy colors, some glitter paint to make everything extra sparkly, and finally some glow-in-the-dark paint to make our stars. Then we're going to want to apply that paint, so we're going to need some paint daubers, and I actually have 3 separate ones here, and that's because I find that it's easiest to work with a different dauber for each of our 3 main colors, the black, the neon blue, and the neon pink. These daubers do not particularly rinse well with different types of paint. Unlike a brush where in between colors you can just sort of rinse it off and then get back to painting, that doesn't really work for these. So I like to have a different one for each color and then just rinse them all off at the end. Then we're going to need 2 paint brushes. We're going to need 1 brush that's going to be our designated paint brush for our glow-in-the-dark paint and glitter paint. And then we're going to need a brush that is our designated glue brush. And the reason for this is because we're going to be using Mod Podge to seal everything off at the end. So let's recap. We're going to need our coaster, our paints, our daubers, our paintbrush, and our designated glue brush, our Mod Podge, and then I also grabbed some paper plates to work on. I wouldn't want to get any paint or Mod Podge on our nice tablecloth here, so I thought it'd be really great to have these paper plates to both work on and use to hold my paint. So go ahead and grab that out of your Art Attack bag and let's get started. At this point, I've set all of my other materials aside and all I have are my coaster, my paints, and my daubers that I'm going to use here. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to take one of the daubers and I'm going to use it to apply a coat of black over the base of the coaster. So this is going to be our night sky for our Constellation Coaster. And once I've applied a coat of paint all over the surface of it, I also want to make sure that I cover these edges as well on our coaster. We want to make sure that they're covered in black paint too. And once both my front and edges of my coaster are painted, it's time to let it dry. Now, patience is really going to be the name of the game for this Art Attack project and for a lot of the other ones that we'll make as well. So you're going to want to find something to do in between applying layers of paint to your coaster. And something that I would suggest is if you go into your Art Attack bag, you're going to find a packet that looks like this and has a whole bunch of constellation stories from around the world. Now, one of the things that we'll be doing this summer as we work on our Art Attack projects is that we're going to become creators of tales. And what I mean by that is that each of our projects has a tale or a story about an animal or a creature with a tale. So in this packet, you're going to find a variety of stories from around the world about different constellations. So while you're letting your paint dry, you're going to want to take some time to read up on these and figure out which one is going to be your favorite and which one that you might want to put on your coaster. So go ahead, read up, and let this paint dry, and I'll see you back here where we'll apply our next colors. In between, I might add another coat or touch up some spaces that I think need it, but we're going to let our black paint dry and then move on to our next step. Once we've let all our black paint dry and touched up a few areas, maybe added another layer of paint if we feel that our coaster needs it, it's time to apply our neon blue and neon pink. And these paints are really going to give our coaster that galaxy feel. Now, I'm going to show you what I do, but in reality, there is no right way to do this. A lot of our Art Attack projects are exactly that, art. So I want you to discover new techniques and try out different things that you think you might like. And if your art project looks different than my art project, that's totally okay. But how I go about doing this is taking one of my daubers and one of my colors, and I'm just going to use the spongy part of it to sort of quickly tap across my coaster. So for instance, I might take some pink and just start applying it like this. And I can, daub really fast or slowly, making marks that are really big or really small. But ultimately, I just kind of want to give it a random, sort of spontaneous pattern and make sure to really get the pattern of the sponge in what I paint. So something like that might look good. Then I'm going to keep applying the pink wherever I feel that might be good, keeping in mind that I don't want to cover my whole coaster, just certain parts of it to give it that galaxy feel. So let's add a little more pink. And once I've added pink in some areas that I think would be really great, I'm going to go ahead and let this dry. Then, once it's dry, I'm going to go ahead and add my blue. Once our pink paint has dried, now it's time to add our next color, the blue. Now, again, we don't want to cover all of the black on our coaster, so we might want to overlap with the pink a little bit to sort of combine the two colors slightly, or we might want to cover some different areas without covering all of the black. It's entirely up to you. And again, the point of the galaxy print is that it's supposed to look a little bit random and a little bit spontaneous. So there's really no way to mess it up. Just fill in any spaces that you think are really interesting. And let's add some blue paint. All right, so now I've got a little bit of blue paint added as well. And as you can see, I have these very random splotches of blue and pink paint all over my coaster. Now I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, and then what I'm going to do is then do the same thing one more time with the black paint. Now I'm not going to show you that on camera because I may want to touch it up a little bit and add some more layers and really fine-tune things, but basically this looks pretty good, so we'll just add some black to blend it back in, and we'll have our galaxy print. So I'll show you what that looks like once this is dry and we're back on video. And after some additional black paint and blending, I've taken my coaster and I've really given it a galaxy print. Now keep in mind in Art Attack, no two projects will look exactly the same. So mine is definitely going to look different from yours, and that's great. Now something that I did that I really liked with mine is I took my black dauber and I made a frame around the edge of black to really give it that galaxy feel. But now it's time to add one of the most important parts of any galaxy, the stars. So the first thing we're going to do to give our galaxy coaster a star effect is that we're going to add glitter paint. So we're going to take our paintbrush, the one that we're using only for paint, and we're going to apply a coat of glitter paint onto our coaster. So let's go ahead and do that now. And now our entire coaster is covered in glitter paint. Now, a couple of things to note is that even though I covered most of my coaster, you don't have to cover it the whole way. You can see that there are a few spaces where I didn't, and that's okay. The glitter coat does not have to be completely uniform on our coaster. Now, the other thing you may have noticed is that it kind of looks like a mess on my coaster right now, with a lot of the white from the glitter paint, and that will dry clear, so we don't have to worry about that. We'll still be able to see our galaxy through the glitter paint. After letting our glitter paint dry, we have a coaster that looks like this. And as you can still see our galaxy through the bottom of the glitter. In the places that we really apply glitter paint, especially the center here, there's more glitter than anything else. So keep in mind that if you want more of your galaxy to show through, you're going to want a little less glitter paint. Or if you're like me and Miss Karen and you love glitter, then you're going to want a little more glitter paint. But keep in mind that that glitter is going to be competing for space with the other parts of your galaxy, so you'll want to apply it accordingly. Now, I mentioned that we had some glitter for a star effect, but now it's time to add our actual stars. And you may remember earlier in our art project that I talked about this packet here that you were going to get in your kit with all the star stories, and that you should pick one that you really like. Now, I really like this story about how Giraffe became a star that tells the story of the Southern Cross. So this is the constellation that I'm going to put on my Constellation Coaster. Now, I've included 3 examples here, and these are all constellations that have tails, but maybe you have a different constellation that you're really a fan of. So feel free to go ahead and pick that one. Again, it's your art project. So what I'm going to do for the last step of our project is that I'm going to take the back end of our brush, the hard part here, and I'm going to use it to apply the glow-in-the-dark paint in a pattern that looks like these stars of the Southern Cross. And just like that, I have these 4 stars, which match these 4 stars here on the Southern Cross. Now, there are a bunch of different ways that you can spice this up a little bit, and how you do that is up to you. Some people like drawing the constellation lines, so like you can see here in the art, there's these 2 lines that connect the 4 stars, and we could paint something like that using the tail end of our brush and the glow-in-the-dark paint. Or we could take our brush and a little bit of paint and sort of make our stars look like a starburst by drawing lines through them with more glow-in-the-dark paint. And that's what I'm going to do here because I really like how that looks. So just by taking the tail end of our brush and manipulating it a bit, we're going to have something that looks like this. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that for each of our other stars. And once I'm done, I'll have something that looks like this, and our constellation will be complete. The last thing we're going to do is Mod Podge it off to seal our paint. So I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, and then we'll apply our Mod Podge. Now, something that you're going to notice is that our glow-in-the-dark paint has really faded into the rest of our paint as it dries, and that's okay. So again, as long as you have enough of it, it should glow in the dark, and it might disappear a little bit, but no need to worry. So the last step of making our coaster is going to be to take our paintbrush that's designated for glue, and you might even want to take a piece of masking tape or a piece of paper at home or something and label it with a little flag on the tip of the brush, or I'm sorry, on the end of the brush. But what we're going to do now is take our Mod Podge and we're going to apply a nice smooth, even layer over the top of our coaster. Unlike our glitter paint, it does matter that we cover the whole coaster because this is what's going to seal it off and protect it from water or any other damage in case we want to actually use it as a coaster. So let's apply our Mod Podge. Now we're going to have something that looks like this, and our Mod Podge will be applied. Now, something that you're going to notice is that just like with the glitter paint, we have a consistent layer of, it looks like white over the top of our project, but that'll slowly disappear as the Mod Podge starts to dry. Now, this is something that you don't need to apply a particularly thick layer of, so anywhere that you see a lot of extra Mod Podge laying on your project, you definitely want to take your glue brush and smooth that out. Then we're going to let that dry, rinse out our brushes, and take a look at our final project. I'll show you what mine looks like at the end of the video. And after our Mod Podge dried, I have this really great looking Constellation Coaster. Now, I haven't tested the glow-in-the-dark paint quite yet, but I'm sure once I turn these lights off here in the studio, it's gonna look great. Now, don't forget to log your participation in Beanstack by entering the code MERMAID into the Art Attack badge. And this way, you'll get credit for participating as well as some tickets toward our prize packages. And you can always send photos of your project over to us using our photo release form to earn credit for your Summer Reading Shutterbug badge as well. And that will give you even more tickets. So be sure to keep that in mind. And also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to get updates not only about the Art Attack series, but also all the other great things that we're doing this summer. As always, happy crafting, everyone!